it. All right, let's take our next Twitter question. It comes from John. How much of an impact does moving on from Joe Philbin and staff impact this team?
It does. It impacts it tremendously because of the leadership void that was there during Joe Philbin. I mean, Joe Philbin spent so much time banishing players with strong personalities, leaders, caging dogs like Chris McCain, and, you know, guys that you didn't feel comfortable with. Well, they had to stay in the cage. Adam Gase encourages personality, encourages alpha male mentality. They had an alpha male draft. Now, none of those guys are really panning out right now, except for Laramie Tunsil. But, you know, a lot of things factored into it. Confident group. He wants a confident team. The question is, will that confidence translate into results?
That's a huge question. Chris asks, what, if anything, do you see that the Dolphins have that they can start to build upon as the Adam Gase era begins?
You've got a quarterback with all the tools. In terms of things that he can do.
We're not counting cojones as tools.
Moxie, leadership, no, they're not tools. I'm talking arm strength. Okay. I'm talking athleticism. I'm talking work ethic. I'm talking intelligence. You know,
he has all those.
He doesn't have accuracy.
Sure.
And he doesn't have a big set. Now, Dan Campbell coached him to be aggressive. Will this next coach, and he produced big plays. Didn't produce great numbers, but he produced big plays. Will this next coach him to be aggressive? Well, we're not seeing that in practice.
Right. And we're seeing dinks and a lot of dunks. And there was that one day about a week ago in which Adam Gase came out and said this is a 10-yard league. You know, and that's what we're gonna do.
That works on. You can dink and dunk it. The problem that you have when you run a dink and dunk offense like Tannehill has done throughout his career, and the Dolphins have had throughout this decade, is you're relying on 10 to 12 play drives. Every play that you have leads to a possibility that a mistake is made by an offensive lineman, by a running back, by penalty, by a receiver, by a quarterback. More plays you have, the more opportunity you have to make a mistake. And defenses capitalize on those mistakes.
Sure. And holding penalty ends the drive.
I remember 2009 season. The Dolphins were playing. This was the game that, it was just 2010. Chad Henne was the starting quarterback. Dolphins were playing in Baltimore. That was a great defense. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and that was Joe Flacco versus Chad Henne 3 years in as starting quarterbacks. And I said to myself, this is the game I see if Chad Henne has it, can do it. And I remember they got beat down, and I went into that locker room, and Ed Reed basically summed up Chad Henne, how to play Chad Henne. All you got to do is stay back and wait for him to make a mistake, because he's not going to beat you. Wait for him to make a mistake. And we did, and he did.
Yeah, right.
Same thing with Ryan Tannehill. Just wait for him to make a mistake. It's going to come. Defense has to capitalize on it, but if you're patient enough, it's going to be there. Not just him, the offensive line, the running back. Just wait for them to make a mistake. That's how you play the Dolphins. Just wait for them to beat themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the dink and dunk might work for the Patriots, but Ryan Tannehill, you are no Tom Brady, sir.
Yes, no. You aren't one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL.
All right, let's go. I'm going to go back a little bit, take a Twitter question from Patrick.
Okay.
Who wants to talk a little bit about defense. Defenders say they need to fix the little things when tackling is an issue. What's really happening, and why does this problem persist?
Good question. It happens because players do not work on tackling during practice. It's just not something that the Dolphins choose to do because of fear of risk of injury. Now, I went to Tampa Bay and watched a practice that featured 2 tackling periods. Now, Tampa Bay wants to be a physical team. They want to run the ball. They've got a very good running game. Hey, maybe that's their mentality, their coach's mentality. We will see who has a better outcome there from an injury standpoint and from a tackling standpoint. My problem with this defense is that you knew linebacker was a problem from jump. You knew defensive tackle was a problem from jump, outside of Ndamukong Suh, of course. What did you do to address both? You added Kiko Alonso. Did you add anybody else to that linebacker unit?
No one.
You just going with the same old situation. Okay, no problem. Defensive tackle. Ndamukong Suh got a lot of money. He's giving you production. What about the guy next to him? Jordan Phillips, Earl Mitchell, now Chris Jones. You added Chris Jones, great waiver wire find, but did you make enough improvements to make sure that you have a pillar of granite there while Ndamukong Suh's rushing upfield? You didn't do it. And now you're putting a lot of pressure on your weakest unit on that defense, which is the linebacker. Well, cornerback is pretty weak too. But your linebackers are not very good short tacklers. They're not very durable, and all the pressure's on them in this wide 9 defense.
Is this all left over from the Suh contract, the fact the Dolphins are the only team that has 8 players making $8 million or more at the cap?
No.
There's just no money for
You
these.
can't. No, that's no.
Okay.
No, bad excuse. Because
right.
last I count, and I haven't checked recently, but Dolphins had $16 million in cap space. There's no excuse about why you can't do what you want to do. You got $16 million to spend. Yeah, you want to carry it over to next year when you want to go spend again and sell fans that, oh, it's going to be better, and sell hope. Great, no problem, fine. But don't use the fact that you're paying Tannehill a ridiculous amount of money and Suh a ridiculous amount of money, because those are the only two that are making a ridiculous amount of money. You got $60 million in leftover cap space. You got a young, cheap roster. Figure it out. You could have signed guys like Brandon Spikes or Antonio Cromartie or Leon Hall or Antro Roll. You could have done that. You chose to go with the younger players and see where they are. Sink or swim season. Great, no problem. But when you produce a 6-10 record, don't come crying to me and like, well, we didn't have enough talent. Well, you chose not to have enough talent.
So what's the worst hole? Defensive tackle next to Suh, the mediocre linebackers and no depth at all, or the corner opposite of Maxwell?
I think it's, oh boy, you're asking a tough one. I think the most problematic area that you're going to have is probably going to be the linebackers, because all 3 of the starters have injury history. Yeah. So what happens when 2 goes down? You've only got 1 quality backup in Neville Hewitt. 1.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if I could name any other. They've got like 8 guys there, and other than Neville Hewitt, I don't know if any of the other guys.
Not Mike Cole. Mike Cole, he's okay. He might give you a good 4 decent game run before he gets hurt, but
he's not a big guy either,
he's
though.
About this big.
Yeah, he's a little guy.
Not that he couldn't whoop me, but hey.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, we're not looking to fight anybody. We're just looking for someone to tackle somebody.